mostly the context of the Palestinian case through the work that we are doing, and by taking more of a proactive approach and presenting something that we have developed. And some of the activities that what we will focus on is particularly is the feminist inclusive political action, and how our involvement with women on the ground and sort of like working with women, engaging them in political activism, and how we move forward towards creating a different language that can be not only used by women for women, but also kind of like that can translate more widely sort of to dealing with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And one of the challenges that we face as a Palestinian society is the fact that we are constantly being victimized, and the story of victimization is always taking sort of like the front. That's taking the focus, to the extent that many Palestinians adopt this narrative of victimhood and constantly become this victim time and time again. So that's one big challenge I believe that we are dealing with, and through this language that we developed, we are addressing this kind of like how to create a language that strengthens a Palestinian identity and modeling of other alternatives. Because one other issue is that because their emphasis is more on victimhood, so there is a lack of focus on positive models in the Palestinian society. And that's, for example, one of the things that I try to do through my tours with Experience Palestine, is identify these people, whether it's in the art and culture, whether it's entrepreneurship and other fields, and showcase how it is possible to create change through that, and to kind of like always feed the media, whether it's the Palestinian media, Israeli media, or international media, with these positive stories, but also sort of like on social media and so on. So we've talked about the one problem is the victimization, the lack of shedding light on these positive models, and I will perhaps just like hand over quickly to Huda to kind of like give a little bit maybe of overview of women's political activism in Palestinian society, but also speak about this new approach that we've been developing, which we've called FIPA, which is feminist inclusive political action, and it has several pillars, and these pillars are about, and Huda will elaborate further. They're about inclusivity and diversity. That's one of the pillars, which includes which sort of addresses the fact that we need to include as many voices as possible in the discussion in political activism. And the second is a code of sort of like being, actually, which focuses on self nurturing, the need to take care of ourselves and build ourselves. So it's like a process of self-nurturing. And then the third one is about creativity. How can we use innovation, different tools to and also the existing voices and identity and diversity of voices in order to produce this richness and creativity, and finally how to kind of like move towards action. And I'll be happy to hand over
Wow,
to you.
I have a very loud voice and I'll be moving. Okay, that's okay with you. For the sake of time, I'm going to go quickly and define 3 things that actually affected our struggle for rights and freedom and legitimacy. Everything that happens in the world directly affects us. So the imposed identity of victimhood and helplessness and submissiveness, or we're being told that look at the people who are fighting to liberate Al-Aqsa, etc. You are not doing enough to do that. So we are responsible for the Muslim world dignity. The other thing is invisibility. We fought for a long time to prove that we exist as human beings, as Palestinians, that we have rights, that people deserve dignity, freedom, etc. So for ages, visibility was a question. But in the 80s, when the religious rhetoric was used in order to fight communism in the world, it also affected us. And the first victims of that radicalization of Islam was for 52% of the Palestinian population to go back to homes, which is unseen before, unheard of before. Women in Palestine were always in the forefront of preserving the society, keeping the identity of the Palestinian people, and raising men and women who are free, liberated. Nothing around them affects their sense of freedom. 80s going on, women became so submissive to the fact that they cannot be participants in any struggle, any demonstrations. They should stay home. Their major holy task is to bring kids to this world and give them to the fight. The last thing is the competing narratives of victimhood, and this is really affected us. It's an imposed identity, but we embraced it, and we became very comfortable about it. So we didn't take responsibility towards changing our reality. We always thought that the Arab world would come and save us. We thought that some Messiah will come and save us, and so and because it's a narrative of victimhood, it's so dangerous for the youth to embrace it, because it's directly translating itself into despair. And when you're desperate, you do anything, and then you blame it to anybody else. So you don't take responsibility. So what to do? We women in Palestine have given a lot of time and chance to men to rule us for a long time, since the 80s at least. I know my grandmother didn't accept that. So we went back to those stories of women who were strong, who in 1913, the first organized women movement in the whole Middle East was a Palestinian in 1913 in Jerusalem. And look at us now. So we decided to go back to the community, understand the needs. And instead of just going to conferences where you teach about Palestine, or let's go inward. Let's not act as elite. Let's not act as intellectuals who know everything and have answers to everything and staying above it. So we went in and we started hearing the youth, women, what is it that ticking them off? What is it that making them angry? Why women are not active? We defined a number of things. One of them actually female preachers. They are the worst when it comes to women's rights. They are parrots. They just repeat what men want us to know about our rights. So we targeted that group, we targeted youth, and we started doing work on reclaiming the Palestinian identity as in a conflict zone. What does it mean to be a Palestinian in the world now? What's our relationship to our community? What's our relationship to the other? And there are many others other than Israel in this context. And we developed the FIPA code. And I'm sorry I don't have copies for it, but I'm going to go through it. It's an effort of many women from Palestine and Israel who sat together for 2 years and started thinking of doing activism from within, which is going internally. You saw some of the problems that the Israeli society is facing. We have problems that are always swept under the carpet because we have the enemy. So one of the things that we started doing is no shaming, no blaming. Okay? Let's take responsibility. And instead of saying that this entity is responsible for what's happening to us, let's take responsibility and go inward and start talking to each other. And in that sense, diversity is number one principle for us. We acknowledge the fact that we are not one set of identity people. We are diverse. We're Muslims, Christians, and Jews. We are sexually, we have different sexual orientations. We have youth. The median of youth in Palestine, in the West Bank, is 16 years old. In Gaza, it's 14. In Israel, it's 29. So you're dealing with a very youth-based communities. And the second one was the moral code that in the heart of it is self-preservation. You cannot be doing this work, and that's why I asked you the question in the morning. We have to admit that we women in the Middle East, we women in Palestine, we women in Israel, we women in the United States are the biggest asset of our societies. And in order to embrace that, we have to know how to take care of ourselves. Not going to spas, but at least every now and then tap on our shoulders and say, good job, you did a good job, you actually made it. And acknowledge the fact that our grandmothers and our daughters are about to do the same. This is important because we call it jaldidat, it's like we are not doing enough. Oh, we deserve what's happening to us.
We call it Polish.
Yeah. And so because of that, we promote solidarity. Meaning, if we know that women, if we know about an article like 308 in Jordan, we all get together and start discussing it and find ways in order to support women in Jordan who are going against it. Just like when we did with women in Lebanon. The same article. Creativity. Because we are coming from hierarchical systems, and because we know only to function in hierarchical systems, we always follow the rules. And we think that this makes us good citizens. And that leaves no space to creativity. And women, by nature, are very creative. Look at women in conflict zones, and I'm going to bring the Liberian experience here. Women in Liberia, from 2003 to 2007, took down one of the worst dictators on earth. That dictator used their children as soldiers to kill them and kill their daughters. And these women, when the dictator went down, the first thing they did, they got together and said, what are we going to do with those kids? What are we going to do with these kids? And you know what? There was no internet, nothing. There was a small radio station. Through that radio station started sending messages to these kids. Motherly messages. You're our sons. We're not giving up on you. Our homes are open to you. Come back. We will give you a hug, give you a meal. Just leave your weapon, and come back because they didn't want the UN to interfere and do another war. And 10,000 children left their arms, their guns, and went back home. One of these women was attending to one of those soldiers who raped and killed her daughter. So women are creative and survivors. They don't give in to victimhood. Just remember that. And then action. Whenever you, if you want to be a FIPA, you have to walk the talk. It's not lip service. It's not that you, I am a humanist, I am a leftist, I am a writer. No. Welcome to the world of action. Stop acting from doing your wars behind keyboards. Life is much bigger than the keyboard, and the first thing that you can do, you can start an internal conversation on a dinner table with your family inside your home, which is the most difficult thing now to happen, even in Israel. It's really difficult to start such a conversation. But the power that you gain when you have one man crying on your shoulder is a lot to deal with. Women have the power. Remember that if we want to liberate ourselves and liberate the other in the process, we need a lot of self-power. And women have that, and they have the creativity to come up with solutions. So I'm putting the first draft of the FIPA code, which was embraced by these women, young Palestinian and Israeli women, Palestinian, Israeli, Israeli Jewish, and Palestinians from the West Bank. And for the first time, women from Gaza participated in it. And to us, this is a huge breakthrough. And we created that code. It's not perfect, it's in its first draft, and I'll put it in your hands so for you to review and for your minds to bring it to us back. And we hope that this is going to help everyone who is struggling with issues of radicalization, because it's not a new thing. Radicalization has been always around, and we've been part of it, and we've been victims of it. So, welcome to Women, Power and Creativity. Thank you very much to all those three groups.